It is 5:02. I would like to welcome everyone to the May New Hanover County Board of Education meeting. May the 4th be with you if you are a Star Wars fan. Thank you for being here this evening. We will start with the invocation. This evening's invocation will be administered by Christine Rutherford, the youth minister from Harvard United Methodist Church in Wilmington, North Carolina. If you could all please stand.
Hello everyone. My name is Christian Rutherford, and I am the youth pastor at Harvard Church and one of the pastors at Cirque Church here in Wilmington. And I have the honor and the privilege of opening us up in a word of prayer today. So let's do so. Jesus, we just thank you so much for this day, and we thank you for this time to meet. Lord, as we are celebrating our teachers this week, and today specifically being Teacher Appreciation Day, Lord, we just want to commend them for all of their hard work and their efforts that they have put forth, especially in the past year. God, we appreciate these men and women so much. Their effort goes far beyond the time that they spend in the classroom. Being a teacher is simply who they are. And God, we thank you for the gifts and the talents that you have given them. And Lord, we thank you for their willingness to serve our students, our families, and our community through the work that they do. God, I pray that you would just continue to encourage them as we continue to navigate this world that has been placed upon us and all of the craziness that we have experienced in the last year. Lord, we do know that you are in control despite those things. We know that you love us. We know that you care for us, and we know that you will work things out for our good, and Lord, that you will prevail even through the midst of the chaos. As we get prepared for tonight's meeting, I pray that you would be with each and every one of the board members here, Lord, that you would help them to shed their own desire, Lord, but look out for what is the right thing, for whatever decisions that need to be made. I pray that you would give each and every one of them the wisdom and the discernment that they need. I pray that you, Lord, would just empower them, and Lord, that you would move through this city, through this community, starting with our school system here. What a great responsibility that we have in order to empower and lead the children of tomorrow. God, we know that you do, again, have all things in control, and we give this meeting over to you. Lord, we love you. We thank you for everything that you do. We thank you for the love that you show to each and every one of us. We thank you for the fact that you desire to have a relationship with each and every one of us, despite who we are or what we've done or where we have been. You love us, Lord, right where we are at, and we thank you for that. We pray all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. Next item on the agenda is roll call. Ms. Bowie?
Stephanie Adams.
Here.
Nelson Boyer.
Here.
Judy Justice.
Here.
Stephanie Craybill.
Here.
Hugh McManus.
Here.
Stephanie Walker.
Here.
And Peter Wildeboer.
Present.
All right, thank you very much. I would also like to acknowledge that we have 3 of our county commissioners here this evening, or 2, I believe. Chair Julia Bozeman and Vice Chair Deb Hayes and Mr. Bill Rivenbark. So we thank you for being with us for the beginning of this meeting to celebrate some of our very special recognitions, and we appreciate your partnership as always. Thank you for being here. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Wildeboer? All right.
He's quicker.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is recognitions and achievements. And these are the nights that I really look forward to because we get to share some of the incredible successes here in New Hanover County Schools and the wonderful people that work here and are soon to work here. So I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Bollier to kick us off for the Future Teacher Scholarship signing ceremony.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the community, for your presence here tonight. Thank you, all of our scholarship recipients. In 2016, the New Hanover County Board of Education established the Future Teachers Scholarship, providing 4 scholarship loans of $7,000 each year to an accredited North Carolina community college, or university of the recipient's choice for a total amount of $28,000 per scholarship. In return, the recipients will teach full-time in New Hanover County schools within 7 years of receiving their teaching license and teach for at least 4 years with our district. The board is excited to announce 2021 Future Teachers Scholarship recipients: Catherine Jupina, Autumn Matthews, Keenan Stewart, and Sophia Zeldin.
The board is delighted to award a 2021 Future Teachers Scholarship to Catherine Pena, a Hoggard High School senior. Catherine plays soccer, official scorekeeper for the Hoggard girls JV and varsity basketball teams, a member of the Pine Valley swim team, and has provided many community service hours through the Hoggard Beta Club. She plans to attend Cape Fear Community College in the fall with the career goal of becoming a special education teacher.
So I am here to announce our next Future Teacher Scholarship, and her name is Autumn Matthews. Autumn, could you raise your hand? There you are, thank you.
No.
Autumn is not, oh, am I on? You are. Okay, now you can hear me. I'm sure you can hear me just fine without it. But so Autumn is not only an exemplary student at Ashley High School, she's a member of the Beta Club there. She is an athlete playing softball, and she also volunteers, very close to my heart, at a nursing home and each year with Special Olympics. Autumn plans to attend UNC Asheville in the fall, and she also plans to major in special education.
I'm Hugh McManus. Keenan, raise your hand. She started. This board is pleased to award a 2021 Future Teacher Scholarship to Keenan Stewart, a Laney High School senior. Keenan has served as a counselor at Camp Intervention, a member of the National Honor Society, Key Club, and she has participated in the Biogen Summer Enrichment Program. Keenan will attend North Carolina State University and major in education. Congratulations.
So where's Sophia? Raise your hand, Sophia. There she is. Hey. The board is thrilled to award the 2021 Future Teacher Scholarship to Sophia Zeldin, a Laney High School senior. Sophie is an avid dancer and is a member of the Laney dance team. She has been involved with the Laney Theater Troupe since her freshman year, and she is very active in her synagogue, B'nai Israel. Sophie will attend East Carolina University in the fall and plans to major in education.
Now it's time for all our recipients and their guests to please come forward to their designated tables. As you're coming forward, on behalf of the board, we want to thank the parents, family members, friends, educators, and others who have so wonderfully inspired Catherine, Autumn, Keenan, and Sophie to pursue the field of education. Thank you all.
I know you can't see us now, you're facing out to the public, but Catherine, Autumn, Keenan, and Sophie, and your designated parent or guardian, at this time, please sign your New Hanover County Board of Education Future Teachers Promissory Note, which is in the folder. I find it rather fitting that you are signing a Future Teacher
I don't know.
Scholarship.
Like, they still haven't shit. I have a feeling they're going to want to cancel the order.
Uh-oh, somebody on?
I think you need to mute, please.
Yes.
But it's very fitting that you are signing your promissory note on Teacher Appreciation Day. So to our future teachers, Happy Future Teachers Appreciation Day. Congratulations to all of our recipients. All right, shall I collect the... Thank you very much. Our future teachers. We are excited for the future of our new educators, and we thank you for your time. All of our recipients went through a rigorous application and interview process, and it was a pleasure getting to know all of you in that time, so thank you very much. All right, our next recognition is a very special recognition, and I'm actually going to again pass this over to Mr. Bullier to get us started.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of the teachers of New Hanover County during Teacher Appreciation Week. Every one of you deserves to be recognized, and you are all so appreciated for the work you do to make our district the success that it is. But now we would like to recognize one of New Hanover County Schools' local heroes. Each New Hanover County School staff member steps up each day to perform the tasks at hand. But sometimes we hear about individuals who go the extra mile. And that is exactly what this next recognition is regarding. The Murray Middle School football team recently faced off against Trask Middle School. During that game, a Murray grandparent fell ill and was in need of immediate CPR. Without hesitation, Trask Assistant Principal Lloyd Brown performed chest compressions for more than 15 minutes, keeping the grandparent alive. The following people also assisted in that rescue effort: Shayla Harper, Richard Murphy, Kimberly Burkhart, Elizabeth Copley, Teresa Hyman, Danica Taylor, and Kaylee Aiken. Emergency medical services arrived shortly after and used a defibrillator to establish a pulse. The grandparent was then transported to the hospital. To all of those who assisted in this heroic action, from all of us here at New Hanover County Schools, thank you for the excellent work you do each day for our students, parents, and your staff. Your quick thinking and immediate response saved the life of this grandparent and showed those around you the true definition of a hero. Your dedication to our community does not go unnoticed, and you are all valued here. Thank you very much once again, and I am pleased to announce that that grandparent is doing well in the hospital. So you guys are absolutely amazing, and it is my privilege and honor to award you with a certificate of appreciation and to award Assistant Principal Brown with a plaque. So if you would all please come forward. Yes, please, right here.
Come on,
Madam Chair?
stage, girl.
Madam
You
Chair,
guys are heroes. Thank you. Yes, sir.
would you like to present?
Oh, do they? Oh, sure. We will That's a good way to start a meeting. So again, congratulations to all of our future teachers, and thank you to our Trask heroes for your actions last week. All right. That is it for our recognitions and achievements this evening. The next item on the agenda is a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, A1, 3, 6, and 7, to consider personnel matters and to maintain the confidentiality of personnel records under North Carolina General Statute 115C-319 and -321, to prevent the disclosure of student records rendered confidential under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, 20 U.S.C. 1232G, to consult with the board's attorney to preserve attorney-client privilege information, including in the case captioned John Doe v. New Hanover County Board of Education, et al., New Hanover County Superior Court Case number 19-CBS-2745, and to hear reports concerning investigations of alleged criminal misconduct. Do I hear a motion?
Move for closed session pursuant to the statutes.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. McManus. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are in closed session. Thank you very much. All right. Go ahead and get started. Thank you for your patience. We apologize, we are a couple minutes behind from closed session. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes as presented. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Craybill. Any discussion? All right, these are the minutes for the March regular board meeting, the April regular board meeting, and the April work session. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the call to the audience. Per Board Policy 2310, each speaker will receive 3 minutes to present comments. However, if more than 10 people sign up to speak, each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. The maximum amount of time for public comment will be 1 hour. Speakers remaining at the end of the hour period may be recognized at the end of the board's agenda. Speaking order. At regular board meetings, speakers commenting on items on the night's agenda will be heard during the first call to the audience. Speakers commenting on other topics, non-agenda items, will be heard during the second call to the audience per the board meeting agenda. Speakers are welcome to offer comments or criticism directed at substantive ideas, actions, or procedures of the board and individual board members. In the interest of maintaining civility and decorum, however, speakers are encouraged to refrain from personal attacks and insults directed at the board, individual board members, staff, or members of the general public. The law and policies of North Carolina provide that issues or concerns involving individual personnel matters are confidential and therefore not appropriate for public comment settings. Concerns related to personnel issues may be addressed through applicable NHCS personnel, the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. Speakers, including students, may discuss issues and matters of general concern, but should refrain from discussing confidential student information. Concerns related to confidential student matters may be addressed through applicable NHCS personnel, the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. At this time, we have 7 items related to agenda items for the first call to the audience, and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 speakers for non-agenda items. As I call your name, you may join us at the podium. Elizabeth Kramer.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Dr. Faust, I am here tonight to express my grave concerns over the teaching of critical race theory in our schools. Critical race theory teaches children to judge a person on race rather than on character. It teaches children that white people are inherently racist and that all systems created by white people are racist. I believe the progressive left is using this teaching to indoctrinate our children. My background is in education. I owned and operated 2 child care facilities in Wilmington for 26 years. I averaged 100 children a day. The children came from all different backgrounds. In my experience, children do not see color. I do not believe racism is a serious problem in our country. I think it's a narrative that has been designed on purpose to keep people in the mindset of victimhood. I have 2 children ages 28 and 25. They have friends of all colors, backgrounds, religions, and sexual orientations. I find that most young people today are not racist. I am tired of this lie being perpetuated. It does not mean that racism does not exist to some degree. There will always be ignorance in the world, but it's certainly not a public health crisis. The teaching of social justice issues and critical race theory are taking away from the real learning that should be taking place in our classrooms. Childhood should be a time of innocence. Kids should not be burdened with adult concepts. What is happening in our schools is a disgrace. Children are being taught to be ashamed of their skin color. As parents wake up to it, I think we will see a mass exodus from public schools and more people choosing homeschool or private school. Critical race theory is teaching people to be racist. It is telling people that skin color matters more than character. This is the opposite of the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This narrative that is infecting our schools, our corporations, and our society is insulting to Black people. The Black families I know are folks who work hard to raise a family. They're not victims, they're fellow Americans. I doubt they want to be singled out in this way. I doubt they want their kids to have to learn this nonsense in school. It's hard to believe that we are going backward in schools by teaching kids that they have been marginalized because of the color of their skin, and that the world that they live in has been created to work against them. This coordinated effort has been underway for quite some time. The future of our children and our grandchildren is at stake. For the first time, I can say that I am genuinely afraid for our country. It's time we all rise up and put a stop to this. I am asking that you, the board, craft a letter to the North Carolina State Board of Education saying that we do not want critical race theory taught in our schools. We do not want federal funds going to support this Marxist, racist ideology. And as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. famously once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And thank you all for all that you do. Appreciate it.
Ms. Beverly Setz.
Hi, I'm back again this month to discuss, again, critical race theory or the social justice theory being force-fed to the students throughout the country. It's my understanding that it's not yet being taught in the New Hanover County school system, but I was at dinner the other night with a teacher, and she said she had to sit through 2 hours of video, and she has to sit through another 2 hours on equity, diversity, and equality. So it sounds to me like it's already been rolled out here. So here's a novel idea. Rather than critical race theory, why not implementing something in the New Hanover County school system where you could be trailblazers, where students, rather than students being force-fed for the unjust decades ago, that they had nothing to do with. Why not create a curriculum for the male students on how to become culturally responsible men and fathers? There are so many books on this topic, and this is where the problem emanates, where everyone thinks they're being socially being socially disserviced. And it's not coming from that. How many young single moms are bringing up babies because the baby daddies aren't in the picture, or grandparents? I think if you put together a curriculum to solve that problem, I think you'd see a lot better things taking place with how people are being treated. And Stephanie, I have a question for you. I know you're not allowed to answer, and that's okay, but I'm putting this out here. I understand that I was told that the contract that was, I think it was approved last with the Cape Fear Collective Data, your husband is a part of that. Okay, all right. So as the last speaker said, we the citizens and taxpayers of New Hanover County are asking that the board write to the North Carolina Board of Education to ask that that we do not want to have critical race theory taught in our schools.
Rick Wilkins.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. It's been a heck of a year for you all. You all work real hard. I work in your school system as a volunteer refereeing, and my hat's off to all the special people that put in the hours and the time. I'm just wondering why we have 2 new positions that were brought out last month's meeting. Director of Enrichment Schools, Director of Curriculum and Instruction. Plus, we know they're going to have staff. We know they have to sit somewhere. Don't you think it'd be easier to right the ship? All the problems we've had, I don't see how bringing on new positions, new curriculum and instruction to supervise all lead teachers, Director of Enrichment Schools, to supervise principals. The principals I've run into here in the 25 years I've repped and coached in this system are phenomenal. I don't know why they would need more supervision. How are y'all going to find the time to be doing that when you have so many things that have fallen by the wayside due to no fault other than this pandemic? So I would behoove you, I'd hope, to take your time and prioritize. Prioritize what needs to be done now to get the ship righted, to get all the kids up to the curriculum level, not the principals to the curriculum level. Get all the teachers, all the books they need. Get the IT department to have all the challenges erased that they faced. Find out somehow to get Wi-Fi to these kids at home who will not come back to school for various and sundry good reasons. And with that, why don't we wait a year for new positions and probably $500,000 in costs when you're done of staff, benefits, computer systems. And by the way, when you bring these people in, you're going to take time away from the folks that are already here for another policy, for another check, for another meeting. As we used to say in the sales business, meetings are up and sales are down. So I thank you for all your efforts here. It's a challenging time for all of us. I just don't understand why you're trying to make it harder for yourselves. Thank you.
Lindy Ford.
Thank you, distinguished board. I appreciate the hard work you do for our precious children here in this county. My name is Lindy Ford, and I transplanted 6 years ago from the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area to get away from the cold weather. I am a former public school teacher and mother of 5. My youngest is in the 5th grade. Up north, I taught at a low-performing school, as well as one of the highest-rated schools in our state. I am now a registered dietitian, clinical nutritionist, in private practice here in Wilmington. I love Wilmington, and I love what I do. I joined with our respected Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, a man of color, to speak out against a social studies curriculum being proposed by the North Carolina Department of Education that seeks to rewrite our history in favor of pushed narratives. These narratives include the historically inaccurate 1619 project, as well as critical race theory, which is an offshoot of critical theory, a Marxist movement. Critical race theory is far from the traditional civil rights movement, which sought to provide equal opportunity and dignity without regard for race. This destructive narrative is just the opposite of Martin Luther King's dream of a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Critical race promotes racism. This ideology states that all of America and its institutions are deeply racist and is therefore irredeemable and needs to be torn down and dismantled. This new curriculum is being sold to us with the seductive buzzwords of equity, diversity, and inclusion. They sound good, but they are all part of critical theory. Equity is not equality. Equality is giving everyone the same opportunity to succeed. Equity is much different. Equity mandates equality of outcome. This is a Marxist, socialist, and communist ideology. Truth should always be taught, and we have horrible blemishes in our past. Slavery was and is abominable and evil. Our founding principles were not evil, but as the great American and former slave Frederick Douglass believed, these principles were written with the ability to break these racial hierarchies. This has happened. Critical race theory robs our children of what they need most, a sound education. While other countries are focusing on outpacing us in math, we should be teaching our children how to divide, not how to be divided. This is not a right or left issue. We, the concerned citizens of New Hanover County, are asking you, as a board, to write a letter to the North Carolina Board of Education stating that we do not want critical race theory, equity, social justice, or whatever the newest label is, to be taught in our schools. If you allow this Marxist indoctrination to happen to our children, we will have no choice but to link your name and this board with Marxism. I can assure you that that will not go over well for your re-election efforts. No amount of federal funding is worth the damage we will do to our children. They deserve better than the racism and division promoted by critical race theory. Thank you.
Eric Flore.
thank y'all for having me up here today. I'm Eric Flory. I'm a retired New Hanover County school educator. I taught 14 years at DC Virgo Middle School, and I finished my career at MCS Noble Middle School. Last 7 years I spent as the Dean of Students here, and I worked with the wonderful, amazing Dr. Judy Stubblefield, and she would have us focus on bullying in the schools and how are we going to eliminate bullying. And if you'll just bear with me for 1 minute here, I want to relate this to the teaching of critical race theory in schools. The nature of students, the bullying nature is innate in kids. We know they don't have the mental capacity to filter that stuff out. So I just want you to use your imagination for a moment and allow me to take you down the road here a year or two after, if New Hanover County Schools approves this, we're going to be weaponizing students with a political self-righteousness that their way is the only way. And then you're going to see bullying like we have never seen bullying before in the schools. The kids are not going to know any better because they're going to be taught in the classroom. You have to dot your I's this way and cross your T's this way. And anyone who doesn't do that, anyone who operates outside of that mindset that's going to be promoted, it's going to produce strife, division, and it's going to produce bullying. And I'm talking across the board, any division of students, you want to take them and break them down. It's a dangerous thing. In my classroom, I always stressed love and respect. My record as a teacher, and I'm not trying to brag on me, but I'm trying to show you how you set the tone. Every year I was one of the teachers who had the least amount of referrals to the office for classroom behavior, because I knew who these kids were. I knew how to respect them, how to respect their parents, their home life, everything. What Dr. Martin Luther King, when he talked about love, equality, and justice and unity, that curriculum that we're talking about putting to work here in New Hanover County, it's going to be the opposite of that. And again, these kids don't know any better. You might say, well, Mr. Flory, what is your basis of this? Well, look at the university systems and the college systems. You used to be able to go to college and share different ideas. You can't today. The political mindset there and the political indoctrination is virulent at best. And not only that, think of how adults have behaved in the last 5, 10, 15 years with their political views. And you start taking kids who do not have a frontal lobe developed yet and giving them this information, and they don't know how to use it, they don't know how to work it. I foresee a lot of trouble coming down the pike. And I thank you for your time.
Angela Caney?
I think I missed critical race theory on the agenda, but I do know that policy 4040 is, and it states that all employees of New Hanover County School are prohibited from dating, courting, entering into a romantic relationship, or having sexual conduct with any student, regardless of the student's age. With this policy on the horizon, why then did the board chair feel it necessary at last month's meeting to offer heartfelt condolences to show support to a teacher accused of having sex with his student without mentioning the alleged victim even once? This careless speech seemed to encourage his supporters to bully and intimidate that victim with horrible name-calling and vile comments that are too vulgar for me to repeat. Then they attempted to lure her to meetings and attach photos of guns to scare her. Her safety's been compromised for simply having the courage to speak out in an effort to protect other young women from the same traumatic experience, which was her goal and a goal I wish our board shared. While the accused admitted to wrongdoing and even offered a payout for silence, he refused to resign from doing a job in close proximity to teenage girls, and sadly later made the choice to take his own life. While it's tragic for anyone to lose their life, and we certainly acknowledge the pain of his loved ones and are sympathetic to their grief, that does not give anyone permission to viciously attack the victim in this way. Your failure to reinforce that sex with a minor is wrong, as a minor cannot consent. And by neglecting to even acknowledge the victim, You sent a clear message that disregards victims and only puts this woman in a dangerous situation. And you've created a safe haven for predators. The amount of students with the added fear of adults in power being critical and skeptical of their intentions for speaking out against pedophiles will surely be shamed into silence. Is this your idea of moving forward progressively? There are many reasons victims wait years to come forward, mostly due to fear of public scrutiny, being harshly judged, retaliated against, and re-victimized. Did you know that the brain actually compartmentalizes traumatic events as a coping mechanism so that sometimes victims struggle to make sense of what has happened to them until they're in therapy to help them recover? Do you also know how confusing it is for a teenager who's being groomed by an older adult to feel embarrassed and unaware that they can even challenge an authority figure in power? And do you have any idea how traumatizing it is for a victim to go through this broken justice system and know that far more times than not, we do not even win these cases simply because it's too difficult to prove? Many years of working with victims have shown that sex crimes against children people who commit these crimes don't come with a visible stamp marking them as pedophiles. They're attractive, personable, intelligent, well-spoken, and quite successful. It's quite possible for someone to be capable of taking advantage of a child and be well-loved and portrayed as a hero simultaneously. That wrongdoing still deserves accountability. I think you'd want to send a strong message against sexual misconduct and create a safe place for victims.
Leslie Posey.
Good evening. I would like to address staffing issues in the district's quarterly budget and from last month's meeting. In the past month, 6 central office positions have been created, the 4 announced at last month's meeting, and 2 by quiet transfer of staff from schools. The combined salaries of these new positions are the equivalent of hiring at least 14 new teachers, as someone else was pointing out, and I hadn't even thought about their staff, their space, all of those other funding issues. Given that at least 100 teachers and staff have retired or resigned in the last 9 months, how do you justify these new central office positions? Which is more important, micromanaging the schools with more administrative positions or putting more teachers in the classroom? Additionally, there are currently at least 3 local elementary schools without assistant principals. This presents potentially dangerous situations. I'm sure you agree there should be an administrator on campus at all times. Finally, like last month, I would like to leave you with a simple question. Alexander Hamilton, one of the greatest minds of this country's history, said, "If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything." Are you standing for what's right for our students and teachers, or are you falling for slick presentations and easy ways to hide the truth? Thank you.
All right, that concludes our call to the audience for agenda items. Next item on the agenda are items that fall under consensus items. The first one is New Hanover County Schools Curriculum Bulletin Update. Dr. LaShawn Smith.
Good evening to the board. The Schools Division is asking for the approval of 3 additional courses: Music Appreciation as an elective course in grades 9 through 12, Italian 1, 2, and 3, and then we are asking that we add an honors level for state courses 2 through 4.
All right, you have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wildeboer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is approved. And I believe you are staying up here for the next one as well.
Yes.
Next item is the UNCW and NHC Board of Education Professional Development System School University Partnership.
Yes, this is a 3-year partnership with the University of North Carolina at Wilmington and the New Hanover County Schools District, and we are asking the board's approval to renew this partnership for the next 3 years.
All right, thank you. You have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Walker?
Yeah.
And any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved. Thank you very much. All right, next up is the personnel report. Dr. Allison Coker.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and board members. Tonight I present to you the personnel report for the period of April 1st through April 30th, 2021 for your approval.
All right, you have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wildeboer. Got to get in there, Ms. Crable, faster. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Personnel report is accepted.
And Madam Chair, I have 3 of the principal recommendations that are here tonight. Dr. Anita Brown, would you stand up? Can I stand up? And Mr. Justin Fischetti and Ms. Saber Wright. Would you guys stand up?
Congratulations. Your schools are very lucky to have all of you. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening. All right, and I believe next item is administrative contract renewals.
Yes. For your tonight, I present for your approval the administrator contract renewals for the 2021 school year.
All right, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Mr. McManus? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Craybill. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Administrative contract renewals have been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Coker. Next item on the consensus items, quarterly budget summary for the period ending March 31st. Mary Hazel Small.
Thank
Welcome.
you. For your information, I present the quarterly report for the period ended March 31st, 2021, with expenditures and encumbrances totaling 74.54%.
Great. Are there any questions or discussion regarding the quarterly budget summary? All right. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda are the policies for second reading. Policies 34, 45, actually I'll pass this to you if you'd like to introduce that, sorry.
That's fine. This evening, I'm asking the board to approve policies adopted during the April 13th, 2021 board meeting. The versions posted in Assembly and adopted by the board at the April 13th meeting were not the correct final versions. The correct final versions are posted herein and are for adoption by the Board of Education. There's just a small hiccup on our part. You have seen the correct versions, but they were not posted correctly into Assembly. So I just ask for a motion to approve the policies for second reading, and we will be bringing you forward more policies in June.
All right, you have heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Craybill. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wildeboer. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Policies for second reading have been approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, old business. County budget request for 2021-22. We welcome back up Ms. Mary Hazel Small.
For the last several board meetings, we've been discussing the budget, and tonight I present the proposed request for our operating, capital, and pre-K budget. Just to summarize the chart shown there, the total request is $98,582,170. About $87.5 million of that would be for operating requests for our school system, which is a 13.6% increase. That is based on the county's proposal to increase our teacher supplement to the highest or near the highest in the state, with an average of $9,000 per teacher, and also reappropriating the money that was received mid-year for bonuses for all employees towards that same goal with this proposal. and then the associated increase in per pupil for charter and lab schools. So the new per pupil rate that we're requesting is $3,423 per student from the county. The capital request, we have been through in previous meetings, but it's also attached the detailed capital plan. And then for pre-K grant, a request for 3 additional classrooms to double the county support of our pre-K. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
All right, open it up to the board for any questions. Ms. Justice?
Yes, I'm glad that teacher supplements are in there. In fact, I'm very pleased. I hope everything goes well with that. But I brought it up during our previous discussions over the years. So there is nothing in there about increasing our classified employees?
There is, but not in the county request. Our plan is, and I should have kept going, a little bit further down below the chart for the request, but I'm so glad you asked, is we are looking to sort of reprioritize some of the funding of local positions with the state increase and the federal increase that we're receiving to free up local money to support the increase for the non-certified staff. With the proposals the salary proposals we've discussed in the past. Quite a bit of their increase will hopefully be state funded, because most of our classified employees are state funded, but we won't know that for sure until we receive the state budget. So our plan is to sort of streamline moving more certified positions to state, classified positions to local, but also picking up part of that increase, with state funds. And we will bring a detailed plan back to the board before you approve the whole budget in July with exactly which positions will be paid out of which funds, and by then we'll have the approved, well, we hope, we'll have the approved state budget, and we'll know how much of that they're going to pay for.
Yeah, because the goal is a living wage, and I mentioned before, $15 an hour. And that was what I had requested 2 years ago. We discussed it again, I think, a month ago. Right. Would that be possible under what you're proposing the state?
So we had a 3-year plan to get there, but of course last year, there was no state budget. So this is the second year of that to get us to 14 minimum for most employees, 15 for bus drivers. There is some discussion, the state might want to get to 15, but that's statewide, it's a really big lift just because of the number of employees that are below 15 statewide. So I know it is a state and a local goal to get there, but the salary schedules we were proposing were to get to 14. But they did have significant increases, not just at the base, but throughout. But when you increase the base to 15, it ends up costing quite a bit more throughout the salary scale. So we were trying to phase that in over, a 3-year plan.
Okay, so that is something that we can discuss further with the final budget approval?
Yeah, as soon as we know the state budget, I will bring back to you exactly the cost. And I think with any available resources, our priority would be to put it towards that. So we would go as far as our funding would allow.
Has there been any discussion with the county as far as assisting with this? Because you're saying right now you're shifting things around. I know teacher supplements are wonderful. In fact, I want those. But also, every one of our employees have been going way above and beyond the last year, just like everyone. And, waiting another year is something that, to me, they deserve better. But that's my opinion. Has there been any discussion with the county about helping the situation out and bring it at the 15 this year as opposed to waiting in the year after next?
When the question was asked, the county's focus this year was going to be on teacher supplements, and that was their
okay, so that's their
preference for the funding increase.
So, but we didn't push that. We allowed the the funding increase for the supplements main focus then.
Well, we certainly
were
supportive.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or discussion points?
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Sorry,
Mr. Beaulieu.
I just had a question about pre-K. I know the county commissioners are trying to up the number of, what are they calling it, seats, or, I'm not sure what the terminology is, I'm sorry, but is there we did some training recently. I know he was on it too, and they were talking about Leandro and the fact that it ties to the state funding too on, pre-K and getting, and I think Nelson, you said there was like 670 on the wait list. I think that's pretty consistent. I know a few years back it was about that number too. I mean, I don't know if Dr. Faust has any plans or we as a county to kind of expand the pre-K and how the funding will work out for that, state-wise and county-wise and local.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this answers your question, but I'll try. I do expect quite a bit of federal funds in the grants that, how do I say this? Some of the federal funding that goes directly to state agencies that are supporting pre-K that will then allot more money to us. I think we'll get more pre-K funding. We just haven't seen those numbers yet. So we expect, in addition to the county increase for pre-K, we expect other state and federal funds to increase for pre-K. We just haven't seen those because all of those agencies will also receive increased federal funding. But we haven't seen recommended increase levels yet. So this was just to continue an increase in county support that they had in their priority budget, and we were going to request it 2 years ago, but we were right in with redistricting, and so we were waiting to see where the space was, and so we requested it this year and then increased it to 3. So I don't know if that
answers
your
question. I think was about classroom. So yes, is it CREC? I think it's CREC where we're going to have.
CREC is where we were going to locate it, moving the kindergarten for Bellamy back to Bellamy after redistricting, and that frees up the space at CREC. But we also hope that there'll be additional slots provided across the county, both in our public and private sites, but we don't know yet.
Okay, maybe I'm hoping that will be a good expanded discussion when we talk about strategic plans and things like that, when we look, I guess, ahead and just see, I know the desire for the county is there. I've talked to a couple of the commissioners about it, and I think the need is there, and I think the state obviously wants us to do it, but we have to find the room, and we just have to have a plan. So I was just you mentioned the pre-K funding, so I guess I wanted to know whether the state was going to help us out, and I guess logistically we'll have to plan for where we put them physically too.
Okay.
So thank you.
Mr. Boyer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've had conversations with every commissioner over the past several weeks, and I want to quote, in a PG way, former President Biden, this is a big, fun deal. It is a big, fun deal, and it couldn't happen, a request like this couldn't happen without the partnerships that we've all worked so hard to develop with our county funding partners. Our teachers, I think, are the best in the state of North Carolina. I think this district is going to be the best district in the state of North Carolina, and I think this budget reflects that. And I'm just so excited to see that type of work rewarded. Our budget for the county is about $400 million. I think Wake County is about $1 billion. And to put forward a budget that competes with their teacher supplement, that is a big, fun deal. And I just want to thank the work of staff, and I really want to thank our county funding partners. It means the world to me, and I know it'll mean a lot to our educators.
I would like to echo that too. I'd like to, thank the Finance Department, Dr. Faust, and your teams for the conversations that have gone on. There's been so much work that's gone into this budget to be able to get top-tier funding for our teachers, especially post-pandemic. Recruiting and retention of staff is going to be so paramount, and to be able to be competitive in a state that everyone is moving to. We want to bring the best to New Hanover County so our children have access to the best, and we want to be able to continue to train up those that we have. So just thank you for your efforts on this budget, and I look forward to it moving forward, hopefully, as we move through with the county and present on the 17th. All right. Any other discussion or questions? All right, so the recommendation is to approve the budget as listed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Any other discussion? I think we've covered that. All right, all those in favor of approving the county budget request for school year 2021-22, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? County budget request passes 7-0. Thank you very much, Mary Hazel. Appreciate it. Next up, New business, designer selections for River Lights, Pine Valley, and Williams Elementary, new construction. Welcome, Mr. Anderson.
Yay, this is
Let's
exciting.
talk about it.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm really excited to be here and recommend designer selection for River Lights, Pine Valley, and Williams Elementary School. Thank you to your support and the support of the county commissioners. We did advertise a project announcement in accordance with the general statutes and your board policy. 13 firms responded to our project announcement, and pre-selection committee evaluated all of those. It was quite challenging. We had 13 really good responses, but we were able to narrow that down to 5 firms. We brought those 5 firms in for interview, and then using the pre-selection criteria from your board policy, we're making the following recommendations, or we made these recommendations to the superintendent, and he agreed to carry these forward to the board for approval. River Lights Elementary School, the pre-selection committee and the superintendent recommend Little Diversified Architectural Consultants. Pine Valley Elementary School replacement, Sawyer Sherwood and Associates PC, and Mary C. Williams Elementary Renovations, BMH Architects.
Okay, and the timeline for this is that the designs would be brought forth to the board in October, I believe is what document around then?
That's correct.
Okay.
We would, that would be the schematic designs. As you know, we're utilizing some savings from our 2014 bond projects to carry these projects through the schematic design phase. So at that time, we'll bring you those plans, as well as probably a recommendation for a construction manager and estimated budget. Once you approve those, we'll then carry that forward to the county commissioners requesting funding to carry these projects through to completion.
Okay, great.
Can you repeat again when you thought you were having the schematics designs to us? I must have spaced out.
It's at the end of the end of this year. Let me
I
give
believe
you.
it said October for all 3.
Okay,
Was
thank you. That's
at
all.
the board meeting that it was going to be brought forth,
Okay.
I believe.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have that exact date. I know in the schedule, we were looking at the initial bond carrying us through from July 2021 through July 2022. We'll be able to bring those back to you around the end of this year timeframe. So we want to finish the schematic design, have our contract estimates in place so that at the beginning of the budget cycle, which will typically start around January for the school board in the county.
That's great. So we're actually ahead of schedule, is what I'm hearing you say.
We're on schedule.
Okay, great. All right, you've heard the recommendation to approve the 3 firms that have been selected for River Lights Elementary School, Pine Valley Elementary School, and Mary C. Williams Elementary. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. McManus. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Recommendations
you.
are accepted. Thank you very much. Next item, the 1-year waiver of Board Policy 3420, High School Credit Recovery. Dr. LaShawn Smith, welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening again. The school's office would ask the board to waive policy 3420 for 1 year. Specifically within the policy, we're asking for the waiver of the attendance requirement of this policy. This would allow our students who did not meet this attendance requirement to be eligible for credit recovery this summer.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, if there's no discussion, you've heard the recommendation. Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
Is there an attendance expectation for the summer session?
So there is. We expect students for the periods that they're enrolled to be in attendance.
95% of the time. 95% of the time.
But as you know, with credit recovery, those courses are specifically designed based on what students need.
Okay. All right, you've heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Move.
Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Is there a second?
Second.
That was like 3 of you. Okay, who wants it? We'll give that one to Miss Justice as the second, please. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank
It
you
is
very much.
approved. And actually, are you staying up here? Waiver of policy 2410?
That one is not mine.
Oh, that is, sorry. Okay. All right, so the waiver of policy 2410, there have been some discussions regarding this policy specifically outlines how policy is addressed. And the idea is, do we want to waive our policy of 2410 to bypass the policy committee to permit discussion and a possible revision of policy 2330, which is regarding the placement of call to the audience on our agenda. So I would like to open this conversation up to if there is an interest in the waiver of policy 2410.
Well, there is an interest,
Okay.
otherwise it wouldn't be on.
Would you like to start us off, Ms. Justice?
I guess I go ahead and move that we waive it for this particular discussion. There's been an awful lot, well, I move.
Okay. Is there a second to waive the policy of 2410 specifically for policy 2330?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Walker is the second. Is there any discussion?
Well, obviously, we've been hearing a lot from people after the last board meeting where it was a very long meeting, and it ended up that we probably had, oh my gosh, over half the people that had signed up for the non-agenda items had to leave, literally. I can't even remember what the time was. But they sat out here for hours and hours, and that just seemed very unfair to our public that wanted to give input. This was the first time we had done this in years. It was a suggestion that I think, in my opinion, we probably implemented without giving it the proper consideration. And so that's why I wanted to waive this particular policy at the moment so we can go ahead and look at it closer because, as I said, more than anything else, what we saw during the last meeting and the public input from many people about how big a burden it was on their having an opportunity to speak to us as their role as public.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, Ms. Walker.
I just wanted to add to that discussion. I know when it was brought up initially, I probably didn't do it properly procedurally because I just didn't understand Robert's rules as well, but I did object. Only on the basis of that if we have time, we should fill the hour, and I felt like making people wait to the end, knowing our meetings are very long, and hopefully we can fix that. I know we're gonna have a discussion next about it, but we did get a lot of feedback and did notice a lot of people waited and left because they just have families and things to do, and, making people wait when we have the rest of the hour, I just think that we shouldn't have to make people wait. That's really my thoughts on that.
And
So
if I could throw in my 2
yes.
cents, I agree. I think that we should, especially if we have the hour, we should use up the whole hour. I agree with
Well,
100%.
this
But
specific
that-
motion is, should we waive the policy?
Right, I know, but that was
Yeah.
my second, that's what I was getting to.
Right.
But, I don't know if we want to start trying to waive policies and then, every time we turn around, we could waive a policy. I mean, I don't know why we can't bring this back to the policy committee and then, to discuss it for next month. We're talking about one more month, so that's where I was going on that, sorry.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Wildebohr. I think we should I don't think we should get in the habit of waiving our policies every time there's something that, seems pressing. It's one more month. We have a policy committee meeting on the 13th of this month, the 11th of this month, on Tuesday at 9 a.m. I feel like we can discuss it at that point.
Okay. Ms. Crable, you have a comment?
I just want to echo what Mr. Wildebohr and Mr. Boyer said, is that's why we have a policy committee, is to look at these kinds of things, and if we start bypassing it for, special interests or that kind of thing, then I think that we're, setting ourselves up for a long road to hoe. So I am not in favor of waiving policy to do that.
Okay. Yes, Mr. McManus, and then Ms. Justice.
I am in favor of doing the very best we possibly can within reasonable time limits to let everyone speak at the beginning, so they don't have to wait to the end.
Okay, but
But that's not what this is.
this motion
But-
is, do we waive the policy to have that discussion?
No, but I think we should do the other.
Ms. Justice, did you want to?
Well, I don't think we waive policy, this policy. I've been here 2.5 years and we've rarely done it, and this is a very unusual situation. That's the only reason that I brought it up, is because it was so evident what occurred last time. Now, we can wait another month, and this, Walker was correct, we are going to be looking at restructuring our meetings, which I think will definitely change the way things have gone. But in the meantime, I don't want us also to be afraid of waiving policy when needs are definitely there, because that is one more roadblock to having us do an effective and efficient job when the public, and it's so obvious that things need to be changed. Under these circumstances, I don't think it's going to be hugely detrimental if we didn't waive the policy, but I don't want it to make a practice of saying we shouldn't waive the policy ever because that's a policy. We need to be very aware that we have that ability for a reason, because we are the ones up here ultimately making decisions what's best for the public, and sometimes that's going to have to happen. And after last week's meeting, last couple weeks meeting ago, I felt so, but being that I am part of what's going on with our new meeting process, which I'll be presenting in a few minutes, I'm sort of on the fence here about waiving it, but I think under normal circumstances, if that wasn't coming up, we definitely should waive it. So I just wanted to add that to this.
Madam Chair, if I might suggest a compromise, policy 2330 would not be placed on the agenda for first reading. It would be placed on for revision. If it is the will of the policy committee to bring that forward with that addendum, I would propose just putting that first, right before call to the audience, and passing the revision and moving forward with the adopt. I mean, I'm saying you can do it at the same speed by going through the policy committee.
Okay, so there's a motion to waive policy 2410. There is a second. We have had discussion. All those in favor of waiving the policy say aye. And I think we're going to have to go down the line for this. So let's start with Mr. Wildeboer.
Nay.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bullier?
No.
No. For me?
No.
Mr. Graybill?
No.
Mr. Mast?
Yes.
Okay, motion fails 5-2. All right. But we appreciate that will be brought forth at the policy committee to be discussed as we move forward. Because again, yes, we want to be able to have efficient and effective meetings for the public, and we need to make sure that we're doing that the best way possible. All right, Head Start. Mr. Bullier?
Madam Chair, I'm going to speak from the dais this evening as there are no action items. Our enrollment remains the same. Next month, you will see our Head Start expenditure report filled out, as that will be the last month of our fiscal year. And I just want to go through a few highlights and updates. We had a parent engagement event. It was sponsored by Nourish NC with the collaboration of the Children's Museum, the Broccoli Brothers Diaper Bank, Cape Fear Museum, and that was on April 22nd, 2021. Family specialists are having Scribbles enrollment in-person sessions to help parents register for a second year in pre-K and kindergarten. There's a huge difference between 3 and 4-year-olds. The early childhood education staff is meeting with families who have completed applications for an interview and educational screening, and there are approximately 800 applicants to date for the 2021-2022 pre-K school year. So a lot of good things are happening with our youngest learners.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
We have this big, long waiting list. What do we do with those kids? I mean, do we move them in automatically if somebody doesn't show? Or how do we accommodate that?
Ms. Miles, are you on the call?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome, Director Smiles.
Great question. So we do maintain a waiting list, and currently we do not have a waiting list. We're at the very beginning of our year and coming off of COVID. So with our wait list, as students transfer to a different district or drop out or are no-shows, then we pull from that waiting list. I think it's very important for the community and board members to understand that preschool is an eligibility program. It is not a first come, first serve. So we have to go through multiple factors in order to get our children on the wait list and follow those state and federal regulations, which we do a great job of. Very excited about the expansion with our community partners and the support from our senior leaders. So we do the best that we can. We are limited with slots, but feel that we do an excellent job in this county.
That's your question? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Miles, for jumping in there, and thank you, Mr. Bullier, for this month's report for Head Start.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next item up on the agenda for information, District 1-to-1 Technology Plan. Dawn Brinson, Assistant Superintendent for Technology and Digital Learning, will be presenting today. Welcome. And board members, if I can just ask a favor, this is a fairly extensive presentation, and so if we could wait till the end to ask questions rather than interject as Ms. Brinson is presenting, that would be helpful. So just write down your questions as we go.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Faust, members of the board. I first would like to introduce part of my team that are here with me. I have Russell Rivenbark, the Director of Technology and Digital Learning. Brian Lance, he's our Director of Network Security. Lindsay Evans, she just got married. She's one of our digital teaching and learning specialists. And Jameis Blackburn, our project manager. They are here to answer questions later when you have questions. One thing the pandemic has taught us is that this district needs to be one-to-one. But that in itself is not innovative. It's what the teachers and students will do with the devices that will be innovative. My staff and I have created a plan that you should have received a copy of that will get us one-to-one in 5 years. The plan includes devices, professional development, support personnel, communication plan, and a sustainability plan for a smooth rollout. To give students flexibility in the way they demonstrate mastery of the curriculum, a high-quality device will be provided to students and staff, allowing for innovation and creativity. Kindergarten through second grade will receive iPads, third grade through 12th grade, laptops. And a mounted display device would be put in every classroom. This will help students who are visual learners and in student engagement and student presentations. As we roll out one-to-one and install new devices at schools, we will be collecting the devices that the school has existing and repurposing them at other schools or surplusing them depending on the age. Okay, we have a 5-year deployment plan. Year 1 would be New Hanover and Laney. Year 2, Ashley, Hoggard, Isaac Bear, Wex, CTEC, Mosley, Central Office. Year 3, all middle schools. Year 4, grades 3 through 5, and year 5, grades K through 2. Now, it's a 4-year replacement cycle. So in year 5, besides doing the kindergarten through second grade, we will also be doing the first year of replacement devices for New Hanover and Laney. And then the display devices being put in the classrooms would be a 7-year implementation cycle. Okay. The estimated rollout, or the estimated amount of funds for this rollout for the initial 5 years, including infrastructure and support personnel, is $56 million. Now understand, I said estimated. We haven't determined what device we're going to use yet or put things out to bid, so that will change. One of the most difficult barriers to solve is students' home internet access. Over the past year, the district has worked with the county, daycares, and private business to provide opportunities for students to have access outside of the school through hotspots, Wi-Fi zones at county and city buildings, and Wi-Fi zones outside of schools. We've also increased bandwidth at some daycare centers during COVID. Moving forward, we will continue to seek out solutions to student access at home. The county does have some promising programs coming out soon. With the increased number of devices, additional support staff will be needed. 7 additional area technical coordinators are included in this plan to reduce the response time for repairs on devices. A student help desk will also be created at each of the 4 comprehensive high schools to provide assistance to students on their devices. This help desk will be created in conjunction with CTE. Okay. As I said earlier, innovation will come from what students and teachers do with these devices. So additional digital teaching and learning specialists are needed to provide training to teachers, students, and administrators. So this plan calls for an additional 15 digital teaching and learning specialists, 4 each year the first 3 years, and then 3 the 4th year. as well as one lead media coordinator to provide training and support to our media specialist. The initial training for teachers will be on device management, digital citizenship, and how to effectively use the learning management systems that we have. What's more exciting is the advanced training and things that teachers will be doing. Be blended learning, project-based learning, students as content creators instead of just consumers of information, and students using voice and choice and how they demonstrate mastery of the curriculum. An example of problem-based learning, we had some students at Ashley High School. They had heard through the yearbook that typically the yearbook they have a senior quote section, and there was an opportunity or chance that that wasn't going to be there. So these students tried to figure out how could they digitally do a senior quote. So they created a Google form that seniors were able to submit their quotes to, that actually checked against another list of email addresses for the senior students to make sure it was only seniors submitting, and then had a teacher who's kind of reviewing the quotes to make sure they're appropriate before they're all posted on a website. So these are students that just saw a problem, found a solution. Okay. The schools division has created a plan to standardize the curriculum across the district, and that plan will take advantage of one-to-one. The digital teaching and learning specialist will work with the lead teachers in the schools divisions to help integrate technology into the standardized curriculum. Communicating to both internal and external stakeholders is critical. We'll be working with Ms. Fiskus and her team to implement the communications plan, making sure that administrators, staff, students, families, and the community are kept informed as we implement one-to-one. The format for the plan is based on the digital learning progress rubric. The Department of Public Instruction requires LEAs to complete this rubric every 2 years to gauge their progress towards moving towards digital learning. It's based on 5 indicators: leadership, technology, infrastructure and devices, professional learning, content and curriculum, and data and assessment. There's also a school version of this progress rubric that we're going to ask each school to complete before they have their devices rolled out, and then again at the end of each year as one measurement of their growth. I will now answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Brinson. I will open the floor.
Madam
Over
Chair?
here. Mr. Wildebohr, start us off.
First off, I want to thank you very much for putting this together. This looks like a great plan. I did have one question though, and I guess I'm stickler for it, but why laptops instead of Chromebooks? Chromebooks are a lot less expensive. It would take a lot less time to get to the 3rd and 4th levels if we went with Chromebooks instead of a laptop.
Are you talking about the operating system, Chrome, or are you talking about the device itself?
A Chromebook. A Chromebook is a lot less expensive than a laptop.
Well, the Chrome operating system doesn't allow for students to be as innovative and creative. They don't have the opportunity to do all the creation that we are wanting our students to do, and doing programming and other things. That doesn't allow it as easily as doing it on a laptop.
Someone online here? Ms. Walker?
No.
Okay, Mr. Boyer?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Why were the schools selected in the years in which they were selected? What was the criteria for that decision?
Well, we were wanting to do high schools first, because we felt it was important that the high schools get the devices and use devices. So in looking at the schools that we were looking at, we felt like New Hanover was a good school to start with. It's not the biggest school. And then we felt like starting with Laney, because what they've done already with technology, they would be another school to complement. So we're choosing one of the biggest schools and the smallest high school together first. The early colleges are already one-to-one. We kind of went back and forth with go ahead and do them in the first year or do them in the second year. Trying to limit how much we are doing the first year. It gives us an opportunity to make sure all of our rollout procedures are very well, and we can refine them before we do too many schools at one time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brinson.
Yeah, so when we say that they get these computers, are these ones that they leave at school every night, or are they allowed to take them back and forth? The plan is that grades 3 through 12 will have the opportunity to take them home every day. They will be strongly encouraged to take them home. That will ultimately be the parent's decision. But grades K2, the thought is they would actually stay in the classroom. But there's a long time before we roll out K2, so that could change.
Okay. And then, never mind, I forgot. I wrote it down, but it doesn't make sense anymore. So.
Mr. McManus.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I'm admitting that publicly.
Mr. McManus, do you have any questions? Good. Ms. Justice?
What brand laptops are we using?
We have not decided yet. We're doing testing on both Windows devices and Apple devices, so we are still in the testing phase. It's important that we make sure that one is a high-quality device that's going to hold up to the wear and tear of the student use. The battery is very critical. Kids taking it back and forth, we're going to make sure the battery lasts for them, not just the initial year, but all 4 years that they have it. So those are some things that we're looking at. Also being able to support it as far as on our infrastructure and being able to quickly get it rolled out to students are some of the things that we're looking at when we are evaluating the devices.
And to clarify, sort of backing up on Ms. Cravel's question, and maybe I missed something during the presentation, but I didn't, maybe hadn't read it properly, but that means middle school and high school students will have access, take it home, bring it
Grades
back.
3 through 12, definitely the plan is that they take them home. But ultimately, it's the parent's choice. But are you going to strongly encourage grades 3 through 12 to take them home?
Okay.
Madam Chair?
But Mr. McManus,
Okay.
Mr. Wildebohr, go for it.
You have a question, but you may not have the answer right now. How many students still do not have internet?
I do not have that answer right now. We don't, that's not data we collect, because it's hard to collect that data, because it's how you ask the question. Because you could ask the question, do you have internet at home? And some may say, yes, they have it, because their parent's phone turns into a hotspot. But if their parent's not home with them, then the kid doesn't have access to it. Or they might just have it on a phone versus having to be able to attach a computer to it. So there is an added fields in Power School that we are going to start trying to collect that information and try and kind of quantify it as to what we're looking at for high-speed internet, really is what we're looking at. But that's data we're going to start collecting and put in Power School.
Does that warrant visitations to some of the homes to make sure?
No, I think it's just how you word the questions and the conversations that we have with the students to make sure that they're understanding the question and why we're asking it.
Because that's very important. Thank
Yes.
you.
All right, Mr. Wildebohr?
And this isn't actually a question, but just want to thank you. I've talked to a good handful of lead or media specialists, and I see you have a position here for a full-time lead person in that role, and
Yes.
it's sorely needed from what I
Yes, they
understand.
do.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just have a few questions.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I just have two. You talked about the equipment and you talked about the positions. I didn't hear you say anything about bandwidth. Can the bandwidth in our district handle the one-to-one move?
Yes,
Okay.
we have access point in every classroom right now. We have access points in the media centers and the cafeterias. We have they're going to probably kill me if I say it wrong. We have 1 gig connection to every school. And then the state who provides our internet pipe out, they base it on how we use it. So if we hit a certain threshold, then they'll bump it up. If we hit a new threshold, they'll bump it up.
And the other thing, this is more of a comment, I love the student help desk option. I'm a workforce development fan, and so to be able to pull in CTE students, as you're having those conversations, is that an opportunity for students actually to be paid?
That is a
Anticipate?
possibility.
Okay.
They are able to do that. We work with them now, at least we have up to before COVID. We've had some students at each of the high schools
Great.
that are able to get paid for that work. So that is a possibility. We're in conversations with Ms. Shuford.
Fantastic, well done. Thank you very much for this presentation. All right, so this is for
Madam Chair?
information only? Yes, Ms.
I
Crago.
figured out my notes.
Yes.
Okay, so one of them was your question, is this a possibility for internships, like, at CTEC and some of the others, like we do here at, for New Hampshire County Schools TV? So that's wonderful. Second thing was, I thought I heard you say that we were working in partnership, or trying to work in partnership with businesses and the county commissioners to increase, internet access. So could you talk a little bit about what that might look like?
During COVID, it was conversations that I had with the county and actually with some private businesses. It was Live Oak Bank was one who kind of helped to reach out and shore up the internet at some of our daycare facilities across the county where kids were every day when they were doing completely remote. So they kind of helped in that. And so they've also, both the county and the city has added some buildings too. They've actually added some Wi-Fi zones outside. So the map that this links to, and we have on our website, is one that's provided by the county that kind of shows Wi-Fi areas where they've opened up to public access to have increased, areas where they could go. Ultimately, we really want the access to be in students' homes and not where they'd have to go to some other location. I do know that they have a program coming out. I don't have all the details, so I don't really want to go into that, but they do have something coming out, and then we're going to continue looking for other solutions, because that's where we need to have the accesses in their homes. Yeah, because I had heard some of the things that might be coming out, so I was just corroborating the story that we really were working on it.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Brinson, and thank you very much to the whole team for coming out this evening. We appreciate you being here at the meeting, and thank you for all the work that you've been doing. We know that COVID has been a challenge for technology, so we appreciate everything. All right, I have been asked to take a 5-minute break, if that's okay. So let's take a break at 7:43. Let's come back in at 7:48. So take a break, we'll be right back. welcome back. Thank you very much. I just need to remind everyone here in attendance, it is, please put your masks on your face while you are indoors. They need to be covering your nose and your mouth in the indoor process, please. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Faust, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Today is Teacher Appreciation Day, so I want to start by thanking each and every one of our rising above the challenge. Yes.
Round of applause.
Thanking each and every one for rising above the challenges this year and remaining dedicated to educating our students, whether it was online, in person, or both. I truly appreciate your flexibility to adapt along the way and always putting our students first. May 7th is Student Lunch Hero Day. I spent time at one of our elementary schools during the lunch hour recently and spoke with students. I also got a chance to personally thank some of our child nutrition staff for the hard work that they are doing each day. Since August of 2020, Child Nutrition has served more than 790,000 lunches. Graduation ceremonies will be held across the district during the week of May 22nd. I've been working with our senior staff and school administrators to prepare summer learning. Summer Ignite 2021 will offer 6 additional weeks of in-person instruction for qualifying students. All eligible families should have been contacted last week with an invite from their principal. Families are encouraged to contact their child's school for further information, and we'll have a deeper discussion next board meeting on Ignite. May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and during the past year, we have seen how important it is to focus on the emotional and mental health and well-being of our students and staff. The first week of May focuses on mental health of early child and seeks to raise awareness around how a positive mental health experience is essential to their development. I want to commend our Student Services Division for their proactive approach to emotional health and their willingness to respond in any situation. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak with the Rotary Club about long-term goals for the district and key ways to help to tackle some of our challenges. I look forward to connecting with more community groups and businesses to discuss their part in student success and how New Hanover County Schools can build future partnerships with our community stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is the board chairperson's report. I would like to echo Dr. Faust's sentiment for Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you so much to all of our teachers and the amazing work that they have done this year on behalf of the board. If you have a child in school, if you are part of the community, I encourage you to reach out to the schools within your community and see what you can do. I know personally my son is in 3rd grade and we're trying to do a lot of things for our teachers this year to let them know just how special they are, and I encourage our community to do the same. You have worked so hard this year in COVID, and we just appreciate all that you're doing and glad that we have this week to celebrate you. In addition, I just wanted to update the community a bit about some of the training that the board has been doing. You know, this group has been together for about 4 months, and we're working really hard to come together and gel as a group. And I'd like to commend all of our board members for the passion and efforts that they have put into the training that we have been attending. We have been working with a representative from DPI to work on our norms and processes to be able to streamline and bring you more efficient and effective meetings. We are working with the North Carolina School Boards Association. We are actually working towards becoming a master board. We're going through master board training. So we're about halfway through that to learn a lot of different aspects of this role to make us a better functioning governance team for you and your children. And most recently, 6 out of our 7 board members also took a Title IX appeals training course. And so there's a lot of work being done here at the dais. You see us at our monthly meetings, but there's a lot more that's going on behind the scenes. And we are here to work for you, and we are doing the best that we can to best educate ourselves to make us as an impactful group as we can be for our community and our school system. So thank you to the board members that have been putting in so much effort and time to get yourselves trained up as we all work to be the best governance team we can. All right? That is all I have for board chairperson's report. Next item that we have under items brought forward by board members is Robert's Rules of Order for Parliamentary Procedures Training, and I will yield the floor to board member Ms. Stephanie Walker.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. I know since I've been on the board, I think this is the one training that we have not done yet. I know we talked about it early on. Ms. Stagner gave us like a brief overview of Robert's rules. And I have acquired a book, and I also got one. A few of us got a book in brief, but I still don't feel like that a lot of us understand it as well as we could. Not, you know, I mean, some of us know it better than others, but I think we'd be a much more effective board if we knew we had training and we knew how to do, you know, motions, et cetera, and things like that. And I feel like it would also help with time, decorum, all the things that, you know, we kind of are at a disadvantage at right now. So really, I hope, I did some research. I found that we have one in Wilmington that is like, she's nationally recognized, at least she's president of the state parliamentarian association, North Carolina Association of Parliamentarians, and we happen to have her here. And I just feel like, you know, it would be a benefit to this board if we all could go through some training. And I know you guys are tired of training, but, you know, we're going to be a master board. We're going to do, and this right here, I think will just help us a lot. And I don't know, I would hope that maybe the chair could contact her and maybe set up something, or the two of you could set up training for us to be able to learn to be better board members. So I would like to make a motion that we, if I'm doing it right, I would like to make a motion that the chair please contact Ms. Nelson here and see if we can get some training for the board.
I'll second.
All right,
Yep,
we've got
that's
a
good.
first and a second. Is there anything, Ms. Stagner, that needs to be, I don't know if this is a legal question as far as training goes for the board.
No, I mean, the board can certainly vote to do whatever training that you feel it might be helpful. I do think that you might want to, and I haven't looked at, I didn't pull up your purchasing or service contracting policies. I don't know if you want to look to see what other options are available. The board, if you're doing master board training, maybe the School Board Association has something available. So my recommendation would be to look at the options that you have for the training and then have, you know, have that brought back to just make that decision about who will do the training.
Would that be amenable to you, Ms. Walker?
Yeah, I think I did do a little research, and I didn't see that they had a parliamentarian trainer like this, of this quality especially. And that's why I specifically made it, you know, for this particular person. Because, I mean, I don't know, I haven't met her. I know there's some people here that probably do know her better than I do. But that's why I made it a specific motion.
I would just say that best practice is typically to have, you know, it doesn't have to go through formal bidding or anything like that, but to look to see what the best available training is for the best price for the district to do that research before just deciding on one person. That would be my recommendation.
Could we find 3, including Ms. Nelson, as one of our?
I would say if I had to just give input on that, I would like to say that they have to be up to her standard, because I think it's rare to have somebody this close that we can take advantage of.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Do we need a vote, or can we just make a request of the chair to do this?
Well, certainly, I think that normally you know, the superintendent or the chair would bring forward a training to meet the standards that the board requested. So I don't know that that you have to vote on the particular individual who's going to do it it's within the budgetary amounts that superintendent has authority for. In my experience, you know, other boards, they would say to the superintendent, we'd like to do this training. The superintendent or his staff would come back and say, you know, this is the option that I have found to perform this training, and then it would be provided to the board.
All right. Ms. Justice?
We're in a really unique situation here. I've known Ms. Nelson, I don't know her that well personally. I've just met her a couple times. But, I mean, she literally goes back to the 90s and probably even the 80s with her reputation nationwide, with her parliamentarian skills, and also she was, I believe, like national PTA, they've changed the name a couple times, PTA president during the 90s. So she is an amazing gift to our community, and I believe she has expressed that she's, you know, she'd like to help us. I'm not sure if there's any financial situation, and since you're talking about the superintendent maybe making a recommendation or the board chair, I guess we're speaking to them right now about doing that. I mean, we're really blessed to have caliber people in our communities with these skills, and she has given many trainings. So, that would be my input on this matter, is that we do follow up with this definitely and find out what the particulars are, because we could definitely benefit from it. We all know this.
So what I'm hearing is we don't necessarily need a motion. This could just be a request that we're going to get some more information and find options, and it doesn't require a vote. Is that correct?
Well, so there's been a motion, I think, in a second, so.
Well, that's what, do we need to pull that back based on this conversation?
It's really the pleasure of the board. If you want to move forward on this motion that's pending, I think you can do that. If not, if you want to just, have consensus to instruct the board chair or the superintendent to come back with some options, that's also a possibility.
Is that
Could you
amenable to
restate
you?
your motion, please, so I know what I'm voting on?
Okay, well, I'd make a motion for us as a board to get parliamentary procedure training with with Tanis is what I would like, because she is the top of the line, we have her here, but at least somebody of this caliber.
Okay.
That's what I'm just requesting in my motion. And I think you just seconded it, so.
Okay.
Is that all right, you?
Is that good?
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, so the motion on the table is to get the parliamentary training for the board by either Ms. Nelson or someone of her caliber. We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Let's go ahead and we can vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. You're welcome. All right, next item on the agenda, committee reports. I am going to yield the floor to Ms. Justice to share information about the board meeting schedule and agenda ad hoc committee.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have a handout to look at?
It's on the.
It's on Assembly.
Okay, I thought I looked for it, and I'm trying to pull up, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's
Attached. It's here.
Okay.
We had a handout last time, and this time I thought it was redundant, trying to save the trees.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, this is the recommendations from our ad hoc committee on board meetings and the agenda. And let me take this off because unfortunately it blocks my speaking. And I'm also been over a month vaccinated, and I'm 6 feet away.
One over here, Kate.
Okay. Now, this is a proposal for the new meeting schedule and agenda for the New Hanover County School Board, and all the following meetings are open to the public except, of course, for the closed session. And the first I'll just go through them. 2 meetings a month, which weekdays of the month to be determined as a separate agenda item. That'll be later on. Right now, the work session, and all these, we talked about this during our last meeting. We took it back and had an, I think it was a meeting before last, had an ad hoc committee meeting, and took the suggestions from the board members who, at the last discussion of this, had put some very good points in and had wanted to give feedback, and so we have now discussed it in committee and added these changes. Okay, so 2 meetings a month, work session from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now, these work sessions are less formal opportunities for the school board to discuss issues, receive reports, and provide guidance to the superintendent and staff. And a good example was what Ms. Brenson just brought forward to us with the one-on-one technology grant coming in, and we could have been discussing that during that work session and then come in and voted on it. And the public would have been invited to it, but that would have taken place earlier in the day, and this way more people, if they got off work, could come in the later hours. So that would be taking place between 5 and 6 p.m. Then we'd have our regular closed session from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then the formal meeting will take place at 7 p.m. All right, that's the change there. Now here's a sample of the proposed agenda structure under the work session. There'll be a call to order, a roll call, approval of the agenda, and this we did not discuss during the ad hoc, but this is taken from actually Ms. Adams' suggestion when I had looked earlier about the approval of agenda. I also added approval of the minutes, because this way during the work session we can take things that just need to be done as a work and get them separated from more of the formal work that we do. Okay, so approval of the minutes, Head Start, information, that's the budget, new programs, facilities, etc., committee reports, and correspondence. Then we'd have the closed session, and here's the agenda for the open session. I mean, the regular session is all open except for the closed. For the regular, more formal session, call to order, invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, national anthem, and posting of the colors. And hopefully, next year, when we get back to more normal setting, we will have these kinds of things taking place. Right? Under COVID, we've had to leave out a lot. Recognition of achievement, call to the audience, consent items, old business, those would be action items, new business, superintendent's report, board chairman's report, announcements, and then adjournment. And so this is what the ad hoc committee, with all of your suggestions, finalized. So if there's, I guess I move to have this work of the ad hoc committee, accepted. Yes.
Can I ask, were you saying like for June, we'd start this process?
I guess we could discuss that after we discuss whether or not we're going to, and we could do that during the discussion in just a minute, so if you want to discuss, yeah.
So we have a motion and I just to clarify, does this need to go through policy? So is the motion would be to say we want it to go to the policy committee
That's right.
for approval to then come to the board for final approval?
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
And that policy committee meeting should be on the 10th or 11th?
11th. Okay.
So we could bring it back for finalizing, so it'll be June anyway. Does that answer your question?
All right, so we have a motion on the table to send it to policy for approval.
Second.
All right, second. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Bowler.
I think that, if we want to get this agenda adopted for June, I would go ahead and recommend that this be placed on the interim meeting. Once again, this is a revision. It does not have to go for a first reading.
Great. Fantastic. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Do we make our comments now, or do we wait till the policy committee meeting to make them?
I mean, I would just wait for the policy committee meeting, because I know there's a couple changes that I wanted to make as well, but I think we can wait for the policy committee meeting.
Okay, and so I would encourage then other board members who are interested to listen in on the policy committee meeting, because I have several other comments that were not quite addressed in the ad hoc committee meeting, and I wanted to clarify that.
All right. I would like to thank the committee. This is great. I'm excited, to see some of the streamlining happening. And I think with 2 meetings, I think this will move a lot quicker. So thank you very much for the work that you guys have done.
And you can
Yes.
and I know that Ms. Craybill was, she had quite a few extensive recommendations, which were good. But part of what we want to, and when you go to the policy committee, please remember this is bare bones what we need to do. And if we start getting off on adding and do it this way and do it that way, that's not really what the, I guess you could say, the spirit of what it is that just a regular meeting schedule and agenda is. I mean, those are other details that can happen during meetings themselves.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. We have had discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Recommendations are accepted to move to policy. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is correspondence. Does any board member have any correspondence they would like to share? Yes, Ms. Craybill.
Are we allowed to add a committee for it, or do we have to ask you to do that first?
If you would like to go back into committee reports, we can give you a quick.
Yeah, the only report that, a report from Title IX Committee, that I just wanted to request that we would be on the interim agenda, because Title IX Committee has a survey that we need to bring forward for the board to look at. So yeah, I have a lot more to say, but that's all I'll say tonight.
Okay. All right.
Actually, Madam Chair, I just would like to add, the Parks and Rec Committee shared with us, the Legion Stadium Committee, we have, the contract comes up due a year from June, so we need to start working on and keep an eye on that, because they're going to enlarge Legion Stadium and add, well, they hope to, and add a whole bunch of new things. But anyway, just wanted to let you know about that.
All right, something to look forward to. Great. All right, anything else?
Just for clarification, so how do we normally do that without butting in?
Just send me an email. Let me know if you'd like to do a committee report.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, any correspondence from board members to share? No? All right, that brings us to our second call to the audience, and let me grab my list, please. All right, first up, we have Peter Rawich.
Tonight I will speak about school suspensions. Imagine a Board of Education policy where pre-K through second grade children are not suspended for hitting a teacher, but instead meet weekly in a small group with a school counselor to work on anger management skills. Imagine a superintendent who provides summer workshops and follow-up training to educators on restorative justice practices that focus on harm acknowledgement and relationship repair instead of broken rules and zero-tolerance punishment. Imagine a principal who reviews his discipline data and supports teachers who are building in time during the school day for students to model and practice positive behaviors, even if it means a little less time for reading or math. Imagine a counselor who asks two 6-year-olds why they were fighting at recess, listens to their concerns, and then helps them make a plan for the next day. Imagine a teacher who holds morning meetings in her 2nd grade classroom where students take turns talking about their feelings and listening to the feelings of others. Imagine a kindergartner helping a friend take 5 deep breaths to calm themselves down when someone broke their favorite crayon and they feel like throwing it. Well, you can stop imagining. This school culture is already in practice. It has been in the Dallas, Texas elementary schools since 2017. 5 years ago, they instituted a policy prohibiting out-of-school suspensions for pre-K through 2nd grade students, except in exceptionally limited or extremely limited circumstances, such as a child bringing a gun or drugs to school. The Texas legislature followed their lead by making this the law in Texas that same year. School suspensions are prohibited for 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-old children. We must do the same here. Thank you.
Veronica McLaurin Brown.
Good evening. There are moments when elected officials have the opportunity to act boldly, courageously, and justly to change the culture and trajectory of the institutions that they represent. Now is your moment to address student abuse that arises from the excessive, oppressive, and unkind use of suspensions in our school system, especially the suspensions of 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-old children, the ones that we still pick up and carry and sit in our laps, and the ones that believe in fairy tales. Across our nation, state governments and boards of education have acted boldly, courageously, and justly to reform their discipline policies and eliminate suspensions. The Pittsburgh Public School Board on September the 1st, 2018 prohibited out-of-school suspensions for nonviolent minor disciplinary actions. The Philadelphia School District ended out-of-school suspensions from K 2nd grade on June 21st, 2018. In 2017, the Dallas, Texas School Board prohibited the use of out-of-school suspensions in pre-K through 2nd grade, except for extremely limited conditions. This year, the Dallas, Texas School Board decided on a very aggressive timeline of 6 months to train and prepare educators for a policy that ends suspensions in 3rd through 12th grade starting in 2021-2022 school year. What did you do? You shuffled a couple of words around and added the phrase as a last resort to the discipline policy. Your wording, your vote were not bold, not courageous, not just, not transformative, and most importantly, not student-centered. You have identified and acknowledged the harmful and disparate effects of suspensions on children. You have a fiduciary responsibility to act swiftly and judicious to stop the harm, just like you work to stop sexual abuse in our school system. Out-of-school suspensions are like a knee on the neck of our children, suffocating them, killing their hopes and dreams and opportunities. This is your moment to act boldly. This is your moment to act courageously. This is your moment to act justly for all of our children. Thank you.
Sandy Isles.
Good evening. This morning, the Hoggard High School Rock was defaced with transphobic, racist, and discriminatory language, threatening the safety of our students and staff. Are you as angry as I am that our children are not safe in our schools? If so, why have you quickly passed discriminatory policies such as those on behavior, suspension, and seclusion and restraint? These policies perpetuate the same hate that was painted on that rock. Our superintendent even acknowledged at a policy committee meeting that our seclusion and restraint policy is, and I quote, more for students with disabilities or behavior problems. All parents of children with disabilities need to understand this policy is targeted towards your children. Our numbers confirm this. I understand we have some students with significant behavior needs, and all students and staff must be safe. However, the use of seclusion and restraint simply is not safe for anyone. The U.S. Department of Education states, there continues to be no evidence that using restraint or seclusion is effective in reducing the occurrence of problem behaviors that frequently precipitate the use of such techniques. So why did our district repeatedly seclude 59 children, 38 of them Black, 486 times in 2017, and continue to do so when there is no evidence that it reduces problem behavior? For Teacher Appreciation Week, I'm asking our board to adopt an effective, evidence-based program to address student behavior so that our teachers can safely teach all children. I'm asking you to empower our teachers with better tools. When our children are safe, they learn, and literacy rates improve. Kids do not learn when they are removed from the classroom, locked in a room, or sent home. Kids do not learn when school is a source of trauma. Yet I hear you say to me that I just don't understand. These kids, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, they're so dangerous. We must suspend, restrain, and lock them in rooms. Except we don't have to do any of that. We choose to do it. We choose to hire central office positions versus hiring staff who work directly with our children. Why aren't we investing in resources that improve student behavior? As Brene Brown said, when you see something that I think is blatant dehumanization, what story do you have to tell yourself to be okay with that? What story are you making up? One story New Hanover County Schools tells us that seclusion and restraint is therapeutic. Okay, then at open house, I expect every family to receive a tour of their school's seclusion room and watch a demonstration on restraint. If this is a therapeutic practice, celebrate this service for all students and be proud of it. Or deep down, you already know this is not humane because we have safer, evidence-based options. Or do you believe our disabled children, mostly Black, deserve this inhumane treatment? So tell us, what story are you making up to release yourself of any ownership so that you can defend the continuation of discrimination and traumatization of our children? Thank you.
Jennifer G. Harnett.
Good evening. I come here today in the spirit of gratitude. Thank you, board members, for your service to our community. As educators, we may disagree about the process to achieve our goals, but we all have the same desire to serve our community. We all want to see the lives of our students improved, and we want equal opportunities for all. Our hearts are filled with joy as we watch young minds blossom with self-confidence and believing in themselves. It is in this same spirit of gratitude in which I am here today. I am here to bear witness to the heroic efforts of our SRO officers in our schools. I have watched them day in and day out work hard to build relationships with our students, relationships in which they mentor, encourage, and advise our youth. I have had many of my students ask specifically if they could go to the resource officer when they had a personal concern to discuss or to seek advice. I want to express gratitude for the de-escalation tactics that the SROs use. I have seen them so often use these to calm students, which prevents them from being violent, not towards the resource officers, but towards each other. I learned this the hard way when I tried to protect a more vulnerable student from another older student who decided to pick up their umbrella and beat the other one over the head. I got hit because I was just standing near the student when their attack started. The student did not mean to hit me. They were just in a violent rage. And our SRO officers often put themselves in harm's way in order to protect our students from injuring each other. This is so important because in order to achieve our educational goals, we need classrooms which are free from violence so that our students can learn. The SROs are a great resource to our schools. I am grateful for them and their efforts toward protecting the learning environment in school, and which works for the good of our entire community. And gratitude.
Van Dorian J. Cromartie.
Good evening. So today I'm just going to give a quick report at Freeman and at Rachel Freeman School of Engineering. Today the PTA is over 100 parents and teachers strong for Teacher Appreciation Week this week. Jimmy John's downtown location, Papa John's Oleander location, Sweet D's on 17th Street, and Publix have all donated this week for the teachers to have a free lunch this week, as well as the new Hanover County Democratic Women have given a generous donation to help facilitate a parenting seminar at Freeman. The garden is growing strong with a variety of fruits and vegetables. And let's see. And thank you for the nomination for the principal this week as well. And we have a new teacher, Ms. Anderson, who's doing a wonderful job. Other matters I'd like to speak on real quick is that I do ask that you change the date and time in which the school board meets, because it falls on the same day as the city council meeting, and I can't be in two places at once. Neither can many other people in the county. 2, I ask that you end K through 3rd suspension as well. I also ask that you get rid of SRO officers in the school, at least at the elementary level. And if there is anybody teaching in a school or in a school who's afraid of students, who feel like they need an SRO officer to intervene, obviously they should not be teaching. I personally have never been in an altercation where I felt like I was afraid of an elementary school child, nor anyone else who is a child, and I've worked with kids for many years. I also ask that you all, as well as other people in the county who work in the schools, volunteers, teachers, janitors, nurses, anyone, that if they do see any type of racist, supremacist, anything that can lead to sexual assault, sexual harassment, that you all ask them right now tonight to leave the school system, because they have no place here. If anyone here has a problem with that, I think it's safe to say that you might be part of the problem. Thank you, and have a good night.
Elizabeth Marie Aletti. Am I saying that correctly?
Good evening, my name is Elizabeth Aletti, and I'm currently a senior at Laney High School. I'm also dual enrolled through Cape Fear Community College. I'm here today to talk about an ongoing situation that started about 2 months ago. The situation being, my counselor ended up giving me the wrong information and telling me I did not have to take an English 4 class at my high school during my senior year in order to graduate due to the English classes I took at Cape Fear. Like I said, I'm dual enrolled. Well, with this information being incorrect, my counselor ended up calling me towards the end of March, stating that she had made a mistake and that I may not be able to graduate this year due to her mistake. Keep in mind, I graduate May 27th. Now, my principal and vice principal tried resolving the situation, telling me I could take the class online through Ingenuity, and cutting out a lot of the course load, leaving me with only 2 modules to do. We agreed upon this. They even notified my mother of the course load I had to complete for this new class. Well, they misled me with that information as well. Seeing as how when I signed up for graduation, my school called my mother saying how I couldn't graduate if I did not complete the class, while I'm under the impression that I have completed what was asked of me and what I agreed upon. This was not agreed upon when I sat down with them. I had a total of 17 more quizzes as well as 2 tests, totaling to around 9 more hours of work. This on top of the 4 classes I already have, as well as the obstacles life has thrown at me recently. Frankly, I do not have the time to pay for the mistake of someone else. During the entirety of the situation, nobody has taken responsibility. Not my principal, not my vice principal, not my counselor. My principal has even gone out of her way to email my mother, making it out to seem as though I'm failing to complete my work intentionally, and emailing her about my Ethics 360 report, saying that we had agreed on the quizzes and tests in the first place when we had not. Yet I completed the work that was asked of me when we sat down that day. This concerns me because not only has this happened to me, this has happened to several of my peers. They have even reached out to me saying that a similar situation has happened, but they are too afraid to speak up about it. How can women in charge of a school who are supposed to act as role models let multiple students suffer with their education due to their mistakes or incapability of doing their jobs properly? I'm disappointed in my school, and I'm disappointed in my role models.
Amanda White.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Faust. Today has been a very difficult day. I know that you have heard what has happened at Hoggard, and frankly, right now I'm very emotional, so I do apologize for any breaks. Last month I did talk to you about the SROs. I'm actually friends with the SRO at my last school. I talked to him. I asked, was the actions that were taken possibly warranted, justified, because I was trying to make sense. And he said, well, he wasn't there and he hasn't seen the video. It just seems wrong. Something seems wrong there. And I know that when I had the interactions with them, I myself broke up a fight, or I guess handled a fight within my own classroom. He was not there because he was not asked, because the principals and the assistant principals handled it as they should for the protection of the students. I actually saw him de-escalate a situation, not putting his hands on a kid, because he understood that they, as SROs, have an obligation to ensure that these kids graduate and that they are able to play sports and that they are able to thrive within their school. And so this leads to the learning loss that these kids incur whenever they're suspended, because an SRO feels as though they have to put their hands on a kid, they have to handcuff, even though they are not physically interacting with any individual. And so I do want to link in today, as an educator, I had to 3 times calm down a student, de-escalate a student that was very frustrated by the actions, the hate speech in which they described that occurred on the rock, when all they were doing was trying to uplift their Black classmates, their LGBTQ classmates, and their Asian American classmates. And today, one of my Asian American students, who I ran into in the hallway, said, "Thank you for being there at the rock," when all I was doing was going to bring one of my students to my class because she was there and I know she needed to be in class. But Why is the student thanking me for being there for her when that is my job? Because for some reason, this is a freedom of speech issue that the school cannot handle because their hands are tied. And I just want to know why this is the situation that it is, where our kids are feeling as though their social and emotional needs are not met because they are bound by these policies in which administrators are not able to handle the way that they should. And so I just want to bring you to this attention because hopefully we can have this conversation to meet the actual social and emotional needs of our students. Thank you.
Mark Whitehead? Mr. Whitehead, if you can do me a favor, we can't have signs that are impeding the visual. So if you want to put it in front of, you can put it in front of the, in front of in front of the microphone. Yeah. Just on the floor is fine. Okay, perfect.
It says the top 3 exciting reasons for students failing this year. Hopefully with a little humor. Dr. Faust, members of the board, representatives of central office, parents, students, thank you for granting me this audience. Dr. Faust, I'd like to thank you for petitioning our thoughts on morale and teacher retention this year. My words will hopefully shed some light on these issues. My name is Mark Whitehead. I've been a teacher in New Hanover County for 22 years. Before that, I taught in the dying country of Czechoslovakia with my Czech relatives as communism was ushered out. My mom's cousin was a political gulag prisoner, survivor from the Prague Spring in '68, and after that, I taught in Japan for 2.5 years. Today, I'll present you with the 3 reasons why such an alarming number of students have failed this year. First and foremost, the students weren't doing any work. Now, some students had circumstances, we understand that, but just go and ask the high school teachers how many students were able to get 2 weeks worth of done over a weekend when their parents jumped on their back, okay? This is linked to the second reason why students were failing this year. And that's a troubling decline in the standards that we've had for our students that I've seen over the last 2 decades. Well, every teacher I've asked has stated they worked more this year than ever before. Less and less has been expected from our students. This is a big reason why you're not getting anyone to sign up for summer school. Okay, we are left wondering why we should even work and try if the kids just get passed. And again, this predates COVID. I'm a history teacher. I can give you a lot more information and a lot more detail and a lot more substantial information and statistics on this if you would like it another time. Having taught honors freshmen since 2003, expectations for our students have plummeted to comical levels. We as teachers don't need failed ideological doctrine rebranded in new terms given to us in the guise of professional development. The horrible practice of jumping on the societal and educational bandwagon of failed ideas have left us with students unprepared for high school, unprepared for college, and unprepared for life. We are done with professional development that is as shallow emotionally as it is stunted intellectually without factual basis to back it up. It's as useless as it is insulting. I implore the board and central office to restate vigor and discipline in our schools. My brother-in-law teaches or sells bonds for schools. The most disciplined schools do the best. Lastly, there was nothing for us when we got to school at the beginning of the year in August. There was no preparation. We were walking around literally for days saying, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to teach? Where's the guideline? Where's the roadmap? It wasn't there. We're also asking, what were they doing in central office for the last 3 months? In closing, I'd like to thank you for your generous attention, and I'm willing to discuss this further in greater detail, and I implore you, go and ask other teachers. Don't take my word for it. Thank you.
Gina Dashbach? I hope I'm saying that correctly. Dashbach? Dashbach? Okay.
It's not mine. When I filled the form for the call to audience, there was area to enter what topic I wanted to speak on, and I wrote equity and SOFIC solutions. I knew that these were not agenda items and that I would be here all night. I answered honestly. I didn't try to cheat the system, and I just sat through an entire meeting, and I know now for a fact that critical race theory was not on the agenda. So why were 3 or 4 or 5 people allowed to speak on a topic for the first part of the meeting? So I'm having a lot of feelings about that. When I walked in tonight, an audience member greeted me. It's the first time I've been to one of these meetings, except for on my kitchen table. And she asked me what team I was on. And I answered, Team Kid. What team are you on? I would like to congratulate the board and Dr. Faust and the Equity and Diversity Committee for moving forward with SOFIC solutions. The whole of New Hanover County will benefit from the unbiased equity report that will result from the survey so that we can move forward and move ahead with good work of equity, inclusion, and school safety. We are not makers of history. We are made by history. That's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'm learning a lot of people like to quote him, so I thought I would share one of his quotes. When I hear school equity work being compared to Marxism and socialism, I'm dumbstruck. This is an excerpt from an email that you all received this morning, and I believe hearing it is different than reading it. So I'd like to read you parts of this email from Denise Yanone. She is a community member and a fierce champion of our children. She is also on Team Kid. Quote, "It seems as soon as we honestly try to give students what they truly need in New Hanover County, the big, loud pivot to distraction begins, and some folks deflect, and they start calling it everything but what it is. The new trigger word is socialism. Telling the truth when we teach history to our children is now socialism. Talking honestly about our issues and differences and calling out discrimination is now socialism. Working toward equity seems to particularly set off some folks. Equity for our marginalized students, and especially our LGBTQ+ students, is yet again called the S word. That S word is not socialism, it's suppression. Suppression of the truth, suppression of hopes and dreams of underserved children who deserve our love and support. Another term being used tonight, and also in conservative news today, is critical race theory. This is a decades-old scholarly theory that recognizes that race intersects with other identities, including sexuality, gender identity, and others. It recognizes that racism is not a bygone relic of the past, and instead, it acknowledges that the legacy of slavery and segregation and the imposition of second-class citizenships on Black Americans and other people of color continue to permeate the social fabric of a nation."
Thank you. Michael Fox? Michael Fox?
Thank you, guys. I'll get right to it. It's my first time here. My daughter received an award in this room for super achievement. She was noticed for 15 under 15 in New Hanover County. She's a 2-time North Carolina pageant winner in the ability for speaking ability, poise, and composition. So I believe I'm doing a great job on raising an excellent community member. I came up here, like I said, it's my first time. I came up here to talk about how stupid the masks are, because everybody knows they are. All right? I don't even want to get into that now. After sitting here and hearing these people talk about how their 4th, 5th, and 6th graders are having trouble in school and have disciplinary actions, and the CROs are manhandling these kids and they're being suspended, I cannot sit there and listen to that and then sit around here and listen to somebody preach about bringing critical race theory curriculum to this county and to these schools. We can tell we have a problem here. It begins at home, and it begins in the community, and it begins with their social media and their electronic activities. And then we want to bring in some radical ideology that is going to teach your kids to come home one day and look you in the eye and go, I hate you. How's that going to feel when they come in here and say that to your face? About being taught in school those ways. I've never been ashamed of what I heard tonight. And I'm actually saddened, and I just can't believe this is going on in our community. My daughter's getting ready to go into 9th grade. I've never had a problem in the school system. I loved every teacher. I respect them, and I just want to know what is going on here. You guys are educators, and we put our trust in you. And to hear these issues being brought up after all this bull crap we went through this last year, it's very disheartening. This is my first time here. It's not going to be my last. We expect some changes. We expect to hear something. If we have to bring 100 people back next time, we will. And if we'll bring 1,000 people the next time, we're going to do that. I respect you guys, and enough of this silliness. Does everybody get it? I heard you commending your kids, man, about great jobs they were doing. And you're going to turn around and teach them to hate each other? It's the stupidest shit I ever heard.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to shut you down. We can't use profanity.
Shit!
Morris Jackson Permenter.
My name is Morris Jackson Permenter, Marcy, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. As a former educator in New Hanover County, I'm very concerned about the decisions that are going to be made to a curriculum that might seriously impact our children's lives forever. I started teaching in 1965, and I've given 46 years of my life to education of children in this county. And through the years, I have witnessed the erosion of morals and values in this country. I've seen the breakdown of the family unit and how liberalism has crept into every aspect of academia, from preschool to college. Talk about culture change. Let me remind us all that culture does change, but core values should never change. One thing I've learned about teaching children is that when you want to try to change their attitudes and their behavior, you first have to get to their heart. That's where the change takes place. I read a book one time called Shepherd in a Child's Heart, and I recommend that read for every parent, every teacher. Let me go back to a moment in time. I was there when Bible reading was taken out of public schools, and kindergartners were no longer allowed to recite a simple blessing because it contained the word God. I was there when the posting of the 10 Commandments were being taken down from the walls. In other words, I was there when God was expelled from the public school. Do you know what happened when God was expelled from the public school? The devil walked in and he took a seat in the front row. Things really began to change after that. Much of what we have talked about tonight has to do with morality, and you can't legislate morality. So let me tell you what happened. After 36 years, I retired from public school and I went into Christian education, helped start Myrtle Grove Christian School and Coastal Christian High School. I, over the years, have seen how children have been desensitized to the things of God. Also, many have lost their love and respect for family and country. That's why it's so important that we teach patriotism in every classroom in America. We need to talk about the good things that have made America the humanitarian nation it is today. We need to recognize great people in the past for the contributions that they have made to create our country's rich heritage. Our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and that is an important historical fact never to be denied. It's also true that our coveted Bill of Rights, which is now being threatened, was patterned after the 10 Commandments. I have a lot to say and not much time left to say it in, but what I would like to say to the board is may I finish that one sentence?
Give you 3 extra seconds.
Is that I think this board has a good conscience, and that you all bring much wisdom to the table.
Thank you, thank you, Ms. Permer.
Please do the right thing at the right time for the right reason for the children.
Jody Francis. Jody Francis. I'd like to submit for now. Oh, okay. All right. Next, final call to the audience this evening is Pat Bradford.
Good evening. I'd like to talk to you about 2 things. First of all, transparency in these meetings. I'm sitting on the front row. I can't see that board. I can't read what's on it. So whatever you're putting up, it's great, but I can't read it, so I can't participate. I can't understand what you're saying because you have a muffled basket on your face and I can't understand what you're saying. You all have microphones, if you could speak into them. Stephanie Crable is the only person tonight I could clearly understand what they were saying. So I've missed a lot of what was said, and I'm sitting here taking notes. I'm a visual learner. I can't see your mouth moving, so I have no idea what you're saying most of the time. So if you could work on that in your policies and procedures, it'd be lovely. All right, transparency. I'm concerned about the fast tracking of the critical race theory in our schools and in our nation. The principles proclaimed in our Declaration of Independence, defended by those who died in the Civil War, and codified into law with the 14th and 15th Amendments, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. All of these are explicitly rejected by critical race theory. So I ask you, do you support public schools separating first graders into groups of oppressors and oppressed? Do you support mandatory critical teaching that all white people play a part in perpetrating systematic racism? Do you support public schools instructing white parents to become white traitors and advocate for white abolition? We should be talking about the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, aiming at excellence in our schools, aiming for excellence in our students, a common standard that challenges people of all backgrounds, all everything, to achieve their potential. I urge you to support excellence in our school and not this junk that you're considering. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda are the announcements. The board will participate in a work session on Wednesday, May 5th at 9 a.m. at the NHCS Administration Building. In practice with social distancing guidance, attendance will be limited to no more than 6 audience members at the Administration Building. The only agenda items will be superintendent's evaluation training and board master's training. The policy committee meeting will meet on May 10th at 9 p.m. 9 p.m.? Is that incorrect?
It's May 11th.
It's May 11th at 9 a.m. or p.m.?
A.m.
A.m., okay. So policy committee will meet on May 11th at 9 a.m. The general public will have the option to view remotely on NHCS TV YouTube. The Title IX committee will meet on May 17th, 2021 at 3 p.m. in the BOE Center. The general public will have the option to view remotely on NHCS TV YouTube. The May interim board meeting will be held on May 18th at 5:30 p.m. in the BOE Center. In practice with social distancing guidelines, attendance will be limited to no more than 50 audience members at the Board of Education Center. The general public will have the option to view remotely via live streaming on the NHCS TV YouTube page. The Family Communications Committee will meet on May 20th at 5 p.m. in the BOE Center. The general public will have the option to view remotely on NHCS TV YouTube. Last item for the evening, adjournment. Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Bollier. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.